다 Atisha Lharampa 도 된다 나보대. 제부 중고도 동문 라지진 봐서 나볼 대용 거 그래서 말이야. 제부 중고도 동문 라지진 봐서 나올 거리요 그래서나 아니 들어가서 그래. 되네 신에 는 가서 저완에서들 된도된 거는 뭐도요 말이야. 내송이 저와가네 하다만 로야게 더시 된거 그래서 어때 제부 중고도 동문 라지진 봐서 된나로래 아니 근초송을教授도 와서教授도 요거네 아니 추팅송하지 송어스 먹이 좋은 거 추팅 되네 대발 샤나 제고스 어때 그데 아니 제부 중고도 동문 라지진 말로 되요 와스.
So we've been going over the text, The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment by the great master Atisha. And really this text deals with the beings of three capacities. And the first type of being that this text deals with is a being of small capacity, or teachings of the small scope. And this type of being recognizes that after he or she dies, there are two possible places of rebirth, those being the lower and the higher realms. And a being of small capacity wishes to abandon the causal factors for rebirth into the lower realms because he or she recognizes the unpleasant nature of the lower realms. So he or she then practices a method which will allow him or her to be relieved of the burden of rebirth into the lower realms. So what is the method that this practitioner must utilize in order to be free from the lower realms? The method is a very strong foundation in the refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. Foundation in ethical behavior, and also understanding of the law of cause and effect, coupled with a confession or acknowledgement of one's downfall. So all of these practices together are the necessary practices for a being of small capacity to abandon rebirth in the lower realms so he or she may attain a rebirth in the higher realms of the gods and humans and so forth. So this is the small scope's motivation.
다때 간다서 용거라서 나본다 가서 뢰지 디바 나기 디바 이지 디바 소마도 요마르스 뢰가 예수 디바 뢰가 예수 디바들 쳬본딩 총송 요아르스 뢰가 예수게 뢰지 디바 다 뢰지 디바를 찾아봐이나 뢰지 디바 쳬본딩 총송 되게 쳬와 되게 녀활 지고 와르스 딩게 예달 쳬고 와르스 아니 종은 돈을 지고 와르스 뜻가비 주린 소바이나 안 주린 쳬워 진리 송되게 아니 매다 하다 남아일 경우 그랬어.
So one accumulates action or karma through the body, speech, and mind. There are no other gateways than the body, speech, and mind which will produce actions which produce rebirth in either the higher or the lower realms. So each type of karma, whether it be karma of the body, the speech, or the mind, has three levels of potency. So if one takes the misdeeds, for instance, of the body, greatest level of misdeed of the body will produce rebirth into the lower realms, and particularly the hell realm. The medium level of negativity caused by the body, or medium level of misdeeds engaged in by the body, produce a rebirth into the hungry ghost realm. And a small level of negativity relative to action of the body produces rebirth into the animal realms. But the same is true for virtuous activities. Virtuous activities have three levels as well, and if one engages in the greatest level of virtuous activity, then this produces rebirth into the gods, and then the little less, the demigods, and then the human realm for the smallest level of virtuous activity. So we can see that there are three outlets of the body, speech, and mind which have various activities, be it positive or negative, which will produce either negative or positive results, those being the lower realm rebirth or higher realm rebirth, depending on the potency of the action and the type of action, whether it be virtuous or non-virtuous.
What that shooting the man is. Naso dadal never dadal chosun dadal teacher hands and around was what the is.
Ethics are very similar to medicine. If we were to go to a doctor, receive a diagnosis, and get a prescription, we would be prescribed a medicine that would eradicate the illness. Ethics are very similar to medicine in this way.
What things so that then also never dadal chosun, then I think also Buddha Dhamma Sangal chosun was, Buddha Dada Namuris, Dhamma de, and the medicine Namuris, and the Sangasuma, what the Lord.
So if someone is sick, they go see a doctor. And if someone has the cyclical issue, if someone wishes to be relieved of the sickness of cyclic existence, then he or she goes for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha and sees the Buddha as a doctor, the Dharma as medicine, and Sangha as helpful aides or nurses.
What the that the Saba in Nasun Ruger in a Diva Chibi in the Shadna Chicken, Diva Shabajina, Diva Tayo, Sanji Sun Yoris, Diva Chibukanji in a Gata Sun Yoris.
It has been stated by the Buddha that no matter how great the level of misdeed, even if one engaged in a great level of non-virtue or a great level of misdeed, which would normally produce a rebirth into the hell realm, that misdeed can be purified through confession, acknowledgement of downfalls. So the Buddha stated that there is no type of negativity that one can engage in that can't be purified.
Tabana Saji Jagal Jubitul Angulimala, Mogoja, Goju Severs, and the Saji Danjane, and the Saji Chutin, Debajane, Debatane, Dungaji dan Yogujum, Dajmotus.
So we can see an example in the case of Angumala, who lived during the time of Buddha. And Angumala engaged in a large number of misdeeds and killed 999 people. But he was able to meet with the Dharma and meet with the Buddha. And did he have to experience the results of these negativities of killing? And the answer is no, because he engaged in the confession of downfalls and various activities prescribed by the Buddha. He was able to eradicate the causal factors. He did not have to endure any of the suffering which it would normally produce, and actually achieve the state of foe destroyer or arhatship in that very lifetime by depending upon the teachings and confession of downfalls.
Oh, then the Angulima Debata, and Nasuki Debata, maybe you say you must, Nasu Debashag in a Debata, and then Saji Sungi Tsenda, Tony Goya, Shamba Goya, Jaunduda, Chutisma, Oden Debatan waters.
So if Angumala can purify the misdeeds that he created, then we can't say maybe we could ours. We have to say quite definitely we can purify our negativities based on the example of Angumala, and we can give no reason that we cannot purify them based on the example of Angumala. So we have the potential to purify our negativities in the same exact fashion that he was able to. There is no difference.
What that Jibu Chungu could what the Landung with the Lotte Yoris. That dream there, Tapananga Nasul Machiba, Nasul Hada Malijiba Ina, Hada Malayad, Ji doing Gai doing Nai doing, and Dungaji doing Chabadiji doing what then it was. What Tele and Tetabi Dungel Tane and Kasugure. Tabal drag longer rimbade and Jibundin Legoras.
So this is the teaching and the lamp for the path to enlightenment, according to the lamp for the path to enlightenment on the small scope. The next level is called the medium scope, or beings of medium capacity or middling capacity. And this is a being who not only recognizes the downfalls of the lower realms, not only recognizes those types of suffering, but also recognizes that anywhere in cyclic existence, cyclic existence, be it the lower realms or higher realms, one still has to endure various types of suffering. He or she recognizes that even the beings in the higher realms of the gods and humans and so forth still have to endure the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, and death, the suffering, the suffering of change, the pervasive compounded suffering. So we can see that if there is cyclic existence, it is necessarily pervaded by suffering. So the medium scope practitioner or being of middling capacity recognizes the downfalls of all of cyclic existence, not only the lower realms, and then wishes to definitely get out and achieve the state of liberation or nirvana, which is freedom from all realms of cyclic existence. So he or she relies on practices which will lead him or her to liberation, which is freedom from cyclic existence altogether.
따뜻하비네 로아리 쪽 동행도 강가로 동행돼 봐서 그래서 포는 뭐 투고는 동행돼 봐. 대주 강라된데 종화르스나 레단 요모부 근요라된데 종화르스. 대 강라된데 종화르스나 댄진라된데 종도와르스 말베 에노로. 오데 대가비 타발 로알라 돈이도 셔러고 와르스 셔러지라 봐. 셔러를 하바데 아버지 용화라 대 지시된 주든지 하바다. 돈이라면 띵은지를 하바. 소소나 되네 동행 조나 제가 간 타발 로야데. 어디 기본 진다 도모이 맞으리 와 딩글라 데메글라 사지고 어두송 버스.
So when we look at the being of medium capacity, and we look at the Four Noble Truths, we can see that the recognition of all of the sufferings in cyclic existence is the first noble truth, the truth of suffering. And then one investigates where this suffering comes from and what the causal factors for suffering are. And that investigation leads to the second noble truth, which is the truth of origin of suffering. And when one investigates this, he or she will find that the causal factors for truth of suffering are action and afflictions, or karma and afflictions. And then if we take it back further, we can find that the causal factors for the actions and afflictions are the causal factors for the action and afflictions is the grasping at true existence, the mistaken view that grasps at true existence. So one must engage in the investigation of the nature of reality and acquire the wisdom realizing emptiness in order to eradicate the grasping at true existence. But in order to achieve the wisdom realizing emptiness, it's necessary to utilize single-pointed concentration, which uses as its object of observation emptiness. And in order to achieve that state of concentration, single-pointed concentration, which utilizes as its object of observation emptiness, one must have ethical behavior. So we can see that the three higher trainings are indispensable for this type of practitioner. And a being of medium capacity is also called a Hinayanist, or a lesser vehicle practitioner. So the medium scope is the same as Hinayana. This is the type of being who wishes to achieve the state of liberation through the process of eradication of the grasping at true existence, which is brought on by the wisdom realizing emptiness, which is caused by the single-pointed concentration, which is caused by ethical behavior.
What that Tonila maybe Tony to be share, Tonila maybe thing and the shooting on Jonah, and then Denzin, Sabon the Jabba Pond, doing it to Pond as and God as.
So if one achieves the state of wisdom, which is the wisdom realizing emptiness, brought on by single-pointed concentration, which uses emptiness as its object of observation, which is possible because of a foundation in ethical behavior. If one has these three higher trainings, then it's possible to eradicate the grasping at true existence and the seeds that the grasping at true existence creates. And if these are eradicated, then the suffering which they produce is also eradicated.
Tapananga Taba Drudens Lolo Sheres, Roa, Yenores Tendabores, Taba Druma Shesmuna, Taba Drunzing Lolo was, Chutanji Dema Madua Shesmuna, 돈이 두비 싫어되게 된질 넣는 거라서.
So, just like the mistaken view, which cognizes as a rope as a snake, which mistakenly cognizes a rope as a snake, the grasping at true existence is just as incorrect as the mistaken view, which sees a rope incorrectly as a snake. So once one has the recognition or wisdom which recognizes that the rope is not a snake, the mistaken view is abandoned. Likewise, once one recognizes that all phenomena are not truly established, they have no true existence, then this eradicates the mistaken view of the grasping at true existence, because the opponent to the grasping at true existence is the understanding of the lack of true establishment of all phenomena.
어떤데 다때다비 라바서 공발라 때네 아니 덴지다 녀모다 동해가 본투거스 이나야 덴지다 녀모 바차 본투거 말스 바차도 마본나 타지 셴바 차투거 말스 상제 투거 말스 바차도 본발라 안 테바 쳔빌라 샹추그 센 로장고 말스 돈이도 셰라다 샹추그 센 초자다고 말스 말베.
So it is possible through this practice of the three higher trainings and familiarization or meditation upon and with these higher trainings to eradicate the grasping at true existence and the afflictive obstructions and inflictions and so forth. These can be eradicated, and one can then achieve the state of nirvana. But it is not possible through reliance upon these alone to achieve the state of complete Buddhahood or the state of omniscience and all-knowing. It's necessary to couple that path with the mind that aspires to enlightenment or bodhicitta in order to achieve the state of all-knowing or complete Buddhahood. It's not possible because the imprints of the afflictive obstructions, which are called the obstructions to omniscience, are still present in the medium scope's case. Because the mind that aspires to enlightenment has not been produced, it's not possible to eradicate the imprints of the afflictive obstructions or the obstructions to omniscience. One must have all of those practices in order to achieve that complete state. And this is called the Mahayana path, or the Great Vehicle path. And it is impossible to achieve Buddhahood without the Mahayana.
나 사지 로마 망게보더 망게보 안네 망게보 테메 다중버레스 뇌지 봉사레스 에너로 봉사레스 동에 봉사버레스 데네 망게베 아마 동송어레스 아마 동네 안네 콩 뇌시 요레스 뇌시 그다네 아마 가바지도 데네 왜 bonne 그 상당버레스 상당데 망게보게 셰두고 말스 망게베 테메 뇌시 되게 셰두고 말스 망게베 아마 타는 뭐 시비질제 요레스 되게 테메 뇌시 셰두고 말스 안 사지게 드시요레스 어디 쳐버레스 망게 테메 되게 시리게 바샤 마모바이서 타지 쳔바 말스.
We can see an example during the time of Buddha, of Mugiputra, who was a highly realized practitioner of the lesser vehicle. But even though he had clairvoyance, because he was a practitioner of the lesser vehicle and had achieved the completion state according to the Hinayana vehicle, he had not completely eradicated the obstructions to omniscience. Yes, the ignorance was eradicated in his case, and yes, the afflictive obstructions were eradicated, which enabled him to achieve nirvana. But the clairvoyance that he possessed was not of the type that a Buddha possesses, which is an all-knowing clairvoyance. It is a type of clairvoyance which is restricted, which does not have the ability to see things very far away. So during his life, Mugiputra's mother died, and he wanted to figure out where she had been reborn. But because the place she had been reborn was very distant, and the causal factors within her continuum were very distant, he was not able to utilize his clairvoyance to see where his mother had been born. But Buddha was able to very surely state where his mother had been born because of the fact that he had eradicated the obstructions to omniscience through practice of the Great Vehicle path.
와자 팀에 다좀 녀모베 바샤 마모 바차드 시디레스 and 상지금도 본투고 말이스 바차도 본발라 되네 티바침비 랑로 장고르스 장주 센리 장고르스.
So a Hinayana foe destroyer, or Hinayana arhat, has abandoned the afflictive obstructions, but he or she has not abandoned the obstructions to omniscience. The only way these obstructions can be abandoned, the imprints of the imprints, the only way is through practice of the great vehicle path, or Mahayana path.
다 티바침비 랑로 장주 센 로장주 들라 준데 명아 뒤주고네 로장주 주다 다제냐바지고네 냐바지 주 하지고 주니 송요르스.
So if one wishes to produce the mind that aspires to enlightenment in his or her continuum, it's necessary to have causal factors for this production. And there are two separate lineages of teachings which produce this mind that aspires to enlightenment. The first is called the 7-point cause and effect for achieving bodhicitta, or for achieving the mind that aspires to enlightenment. And the second lineage is called equalizing and exchanging self with others. So there are two causal lineages for the production or for the ability to achieve the mind that aspires to enlightenment.
어제 다 준네 명아 뒤주고네 샹주가 센 로장주든 시제다지 마이 먹고를 딘템마 딘소와 이용기 샤마 이제 하상 주주 데베 샹주가 센데 뉘레스 말베.
Less so. So the first lineage, which is called the 7-point cause and effect for achieving bodhicitta, begins with the recognition that all sentient beings are our mothers. And then the second step is called remembering their kindness. The third is wishing to repay their kindness. The fourth is love through the force of attraction. The fifth is great compassion. The sixth is the extraordinary attitude. And the seventh, which is the actual result or effect, is bodhicitta, the mind that aspires to enlightenment. So in this particular case, there are 6 causes and 1 result, and this is why it's called the 7-point cause and effect for achieving bodhicitta.
다 다제냐바 주고네 센집이 추들레드네 란진지들 준 요아레스 나로 집이 존나냐고 상로 나로 집이 존나 상로 준 요아레스 제 제반제마 제 샴바탄 니주고가 워두시다게 제 진지라 버레스 오던데 지고네 아니 상주 센종겐지 요사레스.
The second lineage of instruction for achieving bodhicitta is called equalizing and exchanging self with others. And currently, we wish to have a pleasant state or happiness for ourselves alone. And we focus on achieving a pleasant state for ourselves continuously. And the equalizing and exchanging self with others instruction teaches us to switch that actual desire for ourselves to have a pleasant state and switch it to a desire for others to have a pleasant state. So this is the exchange that takes place. It's an exchange in the actual view or motivation.
어제 다 샹주주의 샹주 센줄 저선은 샹주 센바렌데스 티젠바렌도 워레스 샹주 센바레 차도 가르제 워스나 아니 주팅지 라발라오레 띵은지 라발라오 시라지 라발라오 송송모레스.
So once one achieves the mind that aspires to enlightenment or bodhicitta, then he or she becomes a bodhisattva. And once one is a bodhisattva, then they are practitioners of the Mahayana vehicle or become Mahayanists. Once one is a bodhisattva because he or she has achieved bodhicitta. So this is how one becomes a Mahayanist, and then he or she must couple this bodhicitta with the 3 higher trainings, the highest higher training in ethics, the highest higher training in concentration, and the highest higher training in wisdom.
다 이디세 가서 가서 로마가 틴다 말이지 로마가 갈 policy도 왔어 로마 government policy도 왔어 로마를 틴하면은 아니 로마를 하다다 아니 가리나 총강다 팽강도 그 야진도 말이지 로마가 틴 policy 되어버렸나 아니 로마 야진도 왔어 됐나지 아니 주틴 되어버렸나 대바진비 주 야진도 왔어 말이야 주틴 다 띵에서 러버였나.
That's it. So ethics, the foundation of ethical behavior, is very similar to law in a region. In order for a region to be successful, in order for an area to be successful with education and schools and hospitals and transportation and all of these things, it's necessary to have law and order. Likewise, if one has ethical behavior, which is very similar to law, then their ability to practice the great vehicle will be heightened. So the great vehicle is enhanced then by the practice of the higher trainings, and the first of the higher trainings being the foundation in ethics, and then the single-pointed concentration utilizing the nature of reality as its object of observation and the wisdom that realizes emptiness. All of these things enhance the great vehicle and allow one to rapidly achieve results.
어제 다 티바 쳔블레 돈이를 미비 땡에지 고고르스 돈이를 미비 땡에지 센템모 매바이나 안 돈이 세부다 가서 그래 셰치고 중고 말스 안 돈이를 미비 땡에지 고고르스 안 돈이를 미비 셰러서 말베 어디 송 고고르스.
So it's also necessary because one can't realize have realizations without a very stable single-pointed concentration. And that single-pointed concentration has to be very stable and utilize emptiness as its objects of observation. So the ethical behavior causes the stability of the single-pointed concentration. So the single-pointed concentration, which utilizes the emptiness as its object of observation, allows one to achieve the wisdom which uses as its object of observation emptiness. So we can see that these three higher trainings are indispensable on the path.
어제 다드네 돈이 공고르스 돈이 공세야데 돈이 공세 간데서 거르스나 돈이 돈바니래 안에야도 산담바들 돈이 공고서 그래서 상주 생래 안에야도 산담바들 상주 생 공고서 야네야도 생바다 제당도 공빌란스 돈이 야네야도 아기야게 팅그서 그래.
So what does it mean to meditate on emptiness or familiarize oneself with emptiness? Again, anyone who's new, literal translation is not meditation, it's familiarization. It's a word we've used in the United States, but it's incorrect. So it's literally familiarization for anyone new. So when I say that, that means meditation. So what does familiarization or meditation upon emptiness mean? It means thinking again and again and again about emptiness. What does meditation upon or familiarization with bodhicitta mean? It means thinking again and again and again about bodhicitta. So here, when we speak of gom in Tibetan, the meaning of gom, which we translate either as meditation or familiarization, is to think again and again and again about a specific topic.
Then also later drova in the carine momora ancient jamba ina gegen phosha de yana the san madan yum dos tobani tenda de shetsa de yana san madan ko sheche bu yum maris.
So just like in school, if we are to memorize something, if we were given memorization by our teacher, and if we need to again and again and again practice this list of things we were told to memorize, and if we do so, then we will have a stable understanding of them or a stable memorization of them. Likewise, if we do not consistently engage in analysis of emptiness, one will, it's not possible to really understand it very well. If one doesn't think again and again and again about the nature of reality, understanding the nature of reality will not be possible.
That no chuna chugalo tende demba marubares chuna demba maruba the ngazumi tonto mar anju kutu mare onbi sheba shetu mares tambo onbi sheba shetu mares ko ane kandes shegorasna jusela tene shegores tangdala tene shegores otosongores mare.
So when we say that phenomena are not truly established or are not truly existent because they dependently originate, here we're supplying a reason for something's lack of true establishment or lack of true existence. We aren't able to see the lack of true existence of phenomena with our eyes. We're not able to cognize through sense powers or through our senses the lack of true establishment of the nature of reality. It's necessary for us to rely upon a correct sign and rely upon reasons for us to establish that, yes, phenomena are not truly established. It's not something that initially we can directly cognize without reliance upon a sign. It's necessary for us to rely upon a correct sign for the lack of true establishment in order to truly understand it, because we cannot cognize it directly initially.
답은 가서 찾아봐. 나로 대마 마루 버리스 로. 나로 그주 대마 마루 버리스. 나로 그 제베 대마 마루 버리스 말베.
So here we can say, I am not not truly established. I am not truly established. My causes are not truly established, and my effect or result is not truly established. So here we begin to engage in the analysis of the I or I am in order to have an understanding of the lack of true existence or lack of true establishment.
Panangas demo marusana pananga ayesya the naso kangal nuwas ngasya drowa ta ngad kande juaris ngad tesuna ngod ngarbe laba de ngarbe kamba de ngarbe I de ngarbe khadu de ngarbe tesuna kanga ngamaris ngare gumudos de ngade ona nga yo marbesna nga yoaris nga dogore nga nagore ane nga ji lojonje gore nga mesna 라토마 nga yoares nga kandes yoares나 포mon가 초벌 뛰네 포mon가 초벌 뛰네 nga서야지 미기 따성도 yoares 말이야 어디지 라토.
So when we look at the I, for example, when we say I am or ego, we have to try to figure out where this I is. Is the I the head? We say no. Is the I my hand? Am I my hand? No. Am I my leg? No. Am I a color? Am I a shape? Am I a sound? And when we engage in this investigation, we will not be able to find where this I is, where the I or ego exists. But then we will fall to the wrong side and say, well, then there must be no I. It must be non-existent. But this is incorrect, because there is an I that is going and coming. There is an I that gets sick. There is an I that studies. There is an I that engages in behavior. So there must be an existent I. So once we engage in the investigation and can't find the I, then we engage in an investigation to establish that there is an existent I. But how does this I exist? That's the question. And the I exists based on a nominal designation. There is a collection of 5 aggregates that come together and then are nominally designated as he or she. But there is no I that is exclusive of this collection, that is exclusive of the collection and exclusive of the nominal designation. So we try to find the I and cannot. We establish that the I is existent, and we figure out how the I exists, and we see that the I exists through nominal designation imputed upon a collection of aggregates, and there is nothing exclusive of that imputation.
답변나가서 세군도 때문에 글라스 좋아. 된가서 동박에 비치 용도 왔어. 비치 좋아. 동박 비치 때 벽에 세우도 말어 왔어. 저주 동박에 말어 왔어. 좋아. 비치 때 매르베서는 매번 비치도 왔어. 존예도 왔어. 동박 존예 때. 존예 때 안에 간데스 용고서는 세고다 동반이 초벌을 뛰는 존예 용도 왔어. 된나지 다시 초벌을 뛰는 나서야 용도 왔어.
So it's very similar to a mirror. If we had a mirror and we looked at our face in the mirror, we would see a face on the other side of ourselves. But there is no face in that mirror. It's merely a reflection of our face onto the mirror. But we can't say there isn't a picture of ourselves in that mirror, because there is an existent picture. But that picture does not come into being unless there is a mirror and there is a face and a reflection that takes place and an eye to cognize the reflection. All of these things must be present in order to cognize, in order to see, apprehend one's face in a mirror. But there is no face in a mirror that exists exclusively of this collection. Likewise, there is no I that exists exclusively of the collection of parts which we nominally designate or impute as I or he or she.
Then also ganga TV tawors, TV nalul kamba da dramada tong was the kamba guzuni, medan, lomba namandu tong dua, peggy TV de amaros, lomba de amaros, lomba what then rubber users, then rubber marva. The tubala then TV down low down, Mambuja tubala dune, TV nal de tongajin was there, then rubber users.
It's also very similar to a television. When we're watching television, we see pictures, we see houses, we see people, we see shapes, we see places and countries, and we see all of these different things. But are they right there inside of the TV? And the answer is no. But we can't say that those beings and items are not present, as they are. They are existent. They're coming from somewhere. But they're coming from a collection of things coming together. They're coming from the electricity and the television and the cameras and the images and so forth all come together and allow us to then see this is this place, this is this thing, this is him, this is her. But there is no him, her, this, that, or place exclusive of the collection which we nominally designate. So it's very similar to the I. The images on the television are not truly established, nor is the I truly established. Both come into existence through a collection, but both are existent but not truly established.
어제 뜻다도 대마 만루바든 가서 어비 셰베 메기 통투고 말스 어비 셰베 어시게 통투고 말스 담보 ongo송 셰투고 말스 달라된 셰고레스 다다 쪽에 조부 나로래 나사 요메데 다다게 머신 단드는 제바제네 아니 머신 나로 나사 가리나 TV 이미 따지 통고레스 겐시이나 겐시 따 통고레스 아니 다다고 왔다 쪽 겐시레샤스 or TV reshas, sugar nasa reshas, what jeva jeva.
Then Rinpoche, the tambo gari sumpe, tama tamche shingyu, yene tambo gari sumpe.
Jeva so marba.
Hakusa.
Jeva maruba the ngaso onshi kishe to mar.
Wangshe.
Ngaso kishe to mar. Tambo ta jeva ta dal den she wu.
Tamche shingyu.
Yeah.
So it's not possible for us to cognize the lack of true existence through our sense powers or through apprehension with our eye and so forth. It's not possible to apprehend this. It's necessary for us to rely upon a correct sign. And once we rely upon a correct sign, then this is called inferential prime cognition, or inference. So this inferential prime cognition is incontrovertible and is a valid cognition, but it comes into being through analysis and reliance upon a correct sign. Very similar to the way a doctor diagnoses an illness. There is no way for him to just see and then instantly know what the illness is. It's necessary to engage in various tests, and then after the tests are complete, then he relies upon these tests to give a proper diagnosis. And then the proper diagnosis is given, and he or she can then say, yes, you have cancer, or yes, you have tuberculosis. But without these tests and without these correct signs that he or she relied upon, it would be impossible for him or her to make a diagnosis. Likewise, in order to understand the nature of reality, which is the lack of true establishment or lack of true existence of the nature of reality or phenomena, it's necessary for us to rely upon a sign and achieve the state of inference before we have the state of direct prime cognition.
Then wada situation wada dunta jige ane chaba yongres ane sona yongres na dramu dengres chaba yongres dunta ji ane nosi degishi to ko machine nalu dunta tele chaba bogo na dramu yongo yomete machine nalu ta ji tongores what the sheba the jeba lo.
When we look at the situation with the weather, we look at the ability for meteorologists to look at various machines and decide what the weather will be like a week from now. They're able to say, oh, it will rain, it will snow, it's going to cold weather is coming, hot weather is coming. All of these things can be determined by various machines and techniques that the meteorologist utilizes. This is the same exact process of reliance upon a correct sign to achieve the state of inferential prime cognition that one uses to analyze reality. So we can see that a weatherman engages in the same exact a kind of analysis to state what the weather will be like as someone who wishes to understand reality.
But then I in also not the mama ruba, you the mama, shoot not the mama ruba there, and then also Talatin Shiguaris, that and then Nayuaris in a demama ruba, Carson, Dandy in Beja, dependent in Shumarbe. Dandy in
Beja.
Ah, not the mama ruba is, Jusen Carson, Dandy in Beja, Dandy dependent. Soon, Subala turn the troubers, Panazonians, Marbe.
Okay. Then Jutsen la dene. Chuchen sewa da. Okay. So it's the same way that we investigate the I. How does the I exist? Is the I truly established? Why is the I not truly established? The I is not truly established because it dependently originates. So here we see the subject I and the statement is not truly established, and we see the correct sign is because it dependently originates. So here we see the subject, and then the statement about the subject, and then the reason that the statement about the subject is correct. So here we have the complete pervasion that will prove the lack of true establishment, and we have a correct sign to prove that lack of true establishment, so we can achieve the state of inferential prime cognition through utilization of correct signs.
Oje tatne toni kaza tatoni duwe tanda landren ngos tanda song res tanda song jidan tanda mo yo res landren tanda song ngos song yo mares.
So there are many reasons that establish emptiness or establish the lack of true establishment or nature of or the nature of reality. These three things are synonymous, by the way: lack of true establishment, emptiness, and the nature of reality. So all of these come into understanding through correct signs, and we can find three correct signs asserted by Lord Atisha in this text, The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment.
Drebula Juba, you mentioned Tensis, Drebula Juba, Drebula Jubitanda, Jula Jubitanda, Mola Jubitandas, but now was an Aro de Bamaru, Moro, Narugu Judema Maruba, Narugu Jebedema Maruba, or then Raman of Leguaris.
Tambo.
Tambo de Drebula Juba, you mentioned Tensiro, Drebula Juba.
Debula Jupa, Nipa, Jupala,
Jula Juba,
Jula Jupa, Sumba.
Doji Zemi Tensi. Sumba Mola Juba, Chiti, Mosana Jebs and Moro, Jeb Mochuna de Mamarubaro, Jeb Ama de Mamarubaro, Jeb and Jeb de Mamarubaro, or the Jew de was one of the pigeon trade and
Then Jew Depo. Sumba Gare, Sumba Sawa Yomane.
Sumba Mola Jus, Mosana Jeb Moro, Nangaru Moro, Kuro Moro, Mola Jus.
Name. Ming.
Mosana, Tingo,
Nature.
Netsu, situation.
Nature.
Situation.
Okay.
Jebmo.
Less so. Then a Depo, Jew, Mowo.
Oh, that's one head and about this.
Tuchena.
Yeah.
The cassette you're at, Selbo Yomare, then Kepa Yabu Yomare Lagare. So the three assertions that Lord Atisha makes in The Lamp for the Path to Enlightenment are as follows. The statement is that the causal factors for the item or the I are lack true establishment. The results are also lack true establishment, and the nature of the item lacks true establishment. So here three reasons are given for the lack of true establishment or for the assertion of emptiness.
Jidan da omi junele nata gosons nabatabas tabarwa tabalra gosong yoares jeb deba maduba tu bishirade gochi des jeb deba deba maduba tu bishirade goni bares jo deba maduba tu gosong bares jeb jo deba deba junde sonde deba maduba tu bishiro sondele nabatabi gores te gombala dene tabal ruwares tabigo.
So it's also called the three doors to liberation. The three doors, the three doors to liberation being that the causal factor of Jeff lacks true establishment, the result of Jeff lacks true establishment, and the nature of Jeff, because the cause of Jeff lacks true establishment and the effect of Jeff lacks true establishment, is the lack of true establishment. So the nature of Jeff is a lack of true establishment because of the cause and the effect, and both of them together. So those are the three. So this is stated, these are the three doors to liberation, because if one can recognize this, then liberation becomes possible. So if everyone could look at number 47, Tandangye Logwe. So here in number 47, we can find the beginning of the assertion of the signs that emptiness of inherent existence is accurate. Understanding emptiness of inherent existence through realizing that the aggregates, constituents, and sources are not produced is described as wisdom.
Tantan santanda pena matul santandra matu de matu ku sun tu su matu matu chu matu ku sun ku tu ayu ju tu mero matu ku ju tu su meba deba tubare deba ma tubare
Dema Manju.
ju tu su meba deba ma tubare matu ku ju tu su yoba deba ma tubare matu ku ju tu su yoba deba ba ni ga yimba deba ma tubare ni ga ma yimba deba ma tubare deba la ju yu tu su odre
So here it says, through realizing, understanding emptiness of inherent existence, through realizing that the aggregates, constituents, and sources are not produced as described as wisdom. So here, this is the wisdom that recognizes that the causal factors, or the production itself, does not truly establish it, and because it does not contain the actual result within it. So the cause does not contain the result within it, and the effect itself also lacks true establishment. So the causal factor does not have the result within it, so we can't say that the effect itself is truly established because there is some sort of inherent effect within the cause, because the cause itself neither has the effect within it nor is truly established. So here we see the sources are not produced is described as wisdom. The not produced here refers to not produced inherently, does not have true establishment. So we look at the subject Jeff, for instance. Or the subject flower, metu chuchen. So we look at the subject flower, for instance. The subject flower, are in the seed itself, are the causal factors, is flower present? Is there a truly established flower in the cause itself? And the answer is no. So the causal factor does not contain a truly established flower, nor is the causal factor itself truly established. So then the result the effect itself is not truly established, because the effect itself does not produce an effect or have an effect inherently within it, nor is it truly established because its causal factor truly established it. So the effect itself is not truly established. But these two things are existent, but their existence does not make it so that it is truly established. It just proves the actual existence. It doesn't prove inherent existence. So existence is not a reason for it. But we are proving that they are existence to negate a nihilistic view of them. So here we see the cause, the effect, and the combination of cause and result, the nature of the flower lacks true establishment. And we can't say that there is something which is neither the cause or the effect which is truly established, because we've already negated an inherently existent, truly established flower. So its cause, its result, and the combination of the two, as well as something which is neither, prove a lack that there is nothing which is truly established.
What the devil of Juba, you mentioned who dances or what the Palawa Chu Genova, Demba Madu de, Rangi Ju to the Yoba Demba Madu, Rangi Ju to the Meba Demba Madu, Rangi Ju to so Yoba Nameba Niga Yimba Demba Madu, Rangi Ju to the Yoba Nameba Niga Mayimba Demba Madu by Imbe. The Yinza and then Matu could Demba Madu is, but the Naki Matu is Sagas Kaza.
Skyflower.
Sagapalo.
So then Metu Chuch and Demba Madrupa and Mayan.
Demba Madrupa is.
Demba Madrupa.
Demba Madrupa, Jusen Karesana, Rangi Ju to Yoba Demba Madru, Meba Demba Madru, Nika Meba to Yoba Nika Yima Demba Madru.
The Mepa Demba Madru, non existent. Mepa Hakosan.
Madu the Rangi Ju to Yoba Demba Madrupa, Meba Demba Madrupa, Rangi Ju to Yoba the Meba, Nika Yimba Demba Madrupa, Nika May measured head on the Meji, Meji Demba Madru.
So here, when we look at the subject flower, the reasons are given as follows. The subject flower is not truly established. It is not truly established because it is not truly established within its own cause, and it is not truly established because there is a non-existent true establishment within it. So here we say it's not truly established because the cause is not truly established, but the non-existence of the true establishment of cause does not truly establish it either. It's really that awkward in the Tibetan, so I'm trying to, there's no way to make it less awkward. So the lack of true establishment, which the non-existence of the true establishment does not truly establish it either. But the combination of the cause and the result itself, so the causal factor of the flower and the flower itself, combined do not truly establish it, because we have negated both the cause and the effect already. And then something which is neither cannot be truly established, because we've already negated existence being truly established as well as non-existence being truly established. So whether it is existent or non-existent, it is not truly established. There's nothing existent or non-existent truly established. That's the synopsis of everything that was just said.
What did down that is Kalikali.
So if you think about this slowly, you will understand this. So you can slowly understand this in a coarse fashion, and then you speak with others about it, and you hear more things about it, and read about it, and it will become clearer, and a more concise understanding of this will come.
Okay,
and I forgot to read 48. Something existent cannot be produced, nor something non-existent like a sky flower. These errors are both absurd, and thus both of the two are either. So this is just the the part of the existent and the non-existent are not produced or not inherently existent. So 49, a thing is not produced from itself, nor from another, also not from both, nor causelessly either. Thus it does not exist inherently by way of its own entity.
What the ngobu ran le me chi jen dan ni ga karsa da le ma yin jen le me ni le ma yin ju me me ngobu kan da ye jo na yo ma yin na ga ju na ge ane zo shi ro ngong gu du de is de dang da ta ji jo gu be dang da what the ju la ju ba do ji zi min den sis ta ji jo gu be dang da what there is the karasana nga sun ju du ji kan ga lo Demba to be Joyo Maris, Joyoris, Julie Jevar, could you hear this? Rangi Juchen Jevaris, Yenaya, Demba to be Joyo Maris, Ranji to be Joyo Maris, Ranji to be Joy, the Oma Tanjo Jejaris, Oma Tanjo. Demba to be Joyo Maris, Joy, maybe Jusen Carasana, Raleigh Joyo Maris. Dali Joyo Maris, Raleigh Joyo Maris. Jen le Joyo Mare, Nika le Joy, Dada Jen Nika le Joyo Mare, Ju member le Joy, maybe Ju member le Joy Meza, and Demo Madubaris. Tabana Nangas Modus and the Digno, Modus and the Dignoa. Motu the Dali Jena Karis Jaguarisna, Motu the Dali Jena, Motu de Motu Sun to Yoguris. Rajen killing was Rajen ba de Motu de Demba to be Joa Yore, Rajen to be Joa Yore. You have Jusen Carasna, could you to the Yenechivares, you to the Yores, Motu Sun Nalula, me Matura Madu, Motu Sun Nalul Nugu Yores, Motu the Motu Sun, you to the Yenechiva Yenza, Demba to be Joares. Then Tanju Motu the Demba Madubares, Motu you. So you ne chiba mai be je ran le chiba mai be marbe ran le chiba mai is ala chilla jan mara.
So when we look at this, a thing is not produced from itself, nor from another, also not from both, nor causelessly either. Thus it does not exist inherently by way of its own entity. We can find this in the root text by Nagarjuna, the root text on wisdom, where he states that it's not produced from, something is not truly established because it is produced from itself, another, both, or causeless. So Nagarjuna here states almost the same exact thing, meaning that a thing is produced. We can't state that it is not produced because all compounds have to be produced. They're all functioning compounds must have production. So we don't say that they are not produced. Here the meaning is that they are not produced inherently. They are not produced from their own selves, and not from another, and not from both. So here, not produced from itself is the negation of the view of the Samkhya school, or the enumerators in ancient Indian school, where they believe that, for instance, a flower, the seed itself, the belief is that the seed itself contains the effect, which is the flower, in it, and that because the seed contains the result within it, and that all things which cause other things have their result within them, this proves their true establishment, or proves that they are truly existent. So this is the view of the enumerators of the Samkhya school. The view is that things are truly established because within their results the causal factors are present. So the Madhyamika Prasangika school, or the middle way consequence school, negates this incorrect view and states that there is not a result present within the cause, and there is not true establishment of cause.
That's okay. The Jeva Yinza, Dema to be Jewaris. That woman Tanju again. And you do the Jewa covers, Dali Mains, Dali Jo Yomaris, Nagajunang, Dali Jo Yomaris, Dali Jo made the Yubi. You do the Yona Jagua Yomaros, you do the Yona Jagua Yomaros. Could you do the man on the Jagurmatu, you do the Yona Jagua Yomaris, what the covers, Dali Mains, Mother.
Yanjer Suronang, the Jutsin.
Tabana Matu not to acknowledge you to the Yom, because you years ago. 장제바게 모두 주의도 연내 제바 인자 대바 주의 제바스 오마 탄조하게 모두데 주의도 요 말레스 주의도 연내 제바 말레스 주의도 요 말레스 가샤도 대바 주의 제요 말레스 대소서 안에 장제게 주의도 요비 주센지 대바 주의 제와서 가는 것도 달마이스
So the enumerators state, or the Samkhya school states that the results are always present within the causes of something. So the enumerators believe this, but the middle way consequence school negates this because the middle way consequence school states that there are not results present within causal factors. There is not any self arisen from self. It's not possible for self to arise from self. So here Nagarjuna in the root text negates true production of self, and the meaning here is that not truly established, that the self is not truly established. And the reason for negation of this is to negate the Samkhya school's view of self-production, and self-production being a correct sign for true establishment. So the Madhyamika Prasangika school negates this incorrect view.
다 단제발에 레부도 주의도 요 말해서 라도 그 시도가 갈리카버지 다 간데서 까오르스나 안 샹진데 와게든 다지 까고노 아니 단젠 다지 까네 아니 주의도 레부도 요바 이나 조마지 라첸 저와 자제야 요나 조마들 아니 랑보지 자요르 베스
Less so.
랑보지 자제야 그녀바 자요르 와 아니 조마들 랑보지 제 아요스는 요서고지 그렇다 그 단젠 조다로 와 아니 조마데 자강을 친소나 자강들 라체 자요를 봤을 때 들라도 그 다제 가는 거 라도고 말다 자강을 남버지 자요에서 라도고 말
So Shantideva goes further to negate this by stating that this is not possible, that the Samkhya school is incorrect in their assertion. And he states that this is an absurd assertion because if an ant, for instance, had 100 rebirths as an elephant, and this ant during this rebirth happened to be standing on a blade of grass, it means that that blade of grass has the potential to support 100 elephants. If all of these things were present within, all effects and causes were present within each other, then these 100 rebirths as elephants would be present, and one blade of grass would have the ability to support 100 elephants.
어떤들라도 그 단전 내는 거로 안 단전 좋다 갈래지네 안 단전 그 갈래 돈이 쉐바 타고 그랬어.
So the enumerators or Samkhya schools were defeated and negated by this type of reasoning, and their tenet system slowly started to dissolve, and the understanding of the many of the previous holders of the enumerator view or Samkhya school view began to study emptiness or the nature of reality because of the correct reason which negates their whole tenet system.
안에 그 단전을 들라버렸어. 안에 가서 발레 나로를 발레 근데부터 여러베스. 그 주바 대노로 여러베스 지버다.
So another thing which one could say is that piece of bread produces feces eventually. So does that mean that you are eating feces when you have a piece of bread because it will eventually produce the result of feces? So this is another absurd fact which the enumerators would have to state was true because of their assertion that all causes have the result present. So it's easy just to say anything is this or true or that, but once somebody states a reason, then it's impossible for them to hold up their particular system. It's impossible for a system which is so ignorant to hold up to any type of reasoning because it's of the absurdity of its assertions.
다 ngōpa rāng lī mā chī shī, yēn tāng sī, yēn sī, yēn lī chīwā sī. Yēn lī chīwā sī na rāngwa nī chūpi chīwā. Oma tāng chūwa shē chī wā ndū rāngwa nī chūpi chīwā yuwa sī kēntā oma rāng chū bā, sēn sāng bā, shē rā mā wā, dō dā bā, shē rū bā kāngā kēliān gō rā tā. Wā tū sī kāngā kāna gō rā sī.
Then Shengi Drupa.
Rāng kī sēngi chūpi chū lī chīwā. Rāng kī sēngi chūpi chū lī chīwā, rāngwa nī chūpi chū lī chīwā. Oma tāng chūwa kī dēmbā rangon drupa yo mare, demba drupa yo mare, rangi drupa yo mares. Rangi ba demba drupa yo mare te rang senyi drupa yo ares. Rang senyi drupa ju yo ares. Rang senyi drupa debu yo ares. Rang senyi drupa debu te rang senyi drupa ju yen li che bares. Yen li che was. Senzang ba da. Nambi shira ma da. Dudu ba thaji kilendro.
Less so. So the second, produced from other, actually not produced from another, is only an assertion of the middle way consequence school, the Madhyamika Prasangika school. Their view negates even all the other Buddhist schools below it, beginning with the Madhyamika Svatantrika school and its two divisions, as well as the Chittamantran, as well as the Chittamantran school, and the Sautrantika school, and the Vabhashika school. All of these are negated by Nagarjuna's view of the middle way consequence school. So holders of this view, such as Chandarashita and so forth, were actually negated by the middle way consequence view, because the middle way consequence view does not state or believe that things are produced from self or from other, whereas the middle way autonomy school, the mind-only school, the sutra school, and the great exposition school all hold some form, whether it be coarse or subtle, production from other.
Ngōpa rāng lī mā chī shī, yēn tāng sī, ngō yēn lī chīwā, pā nā mā tū chū rāngwān rūpi chīwā mē tā dēmā rūpi chīwā yō mā rī sī. Rāng kā sīñi rūpi chū yēn lī chīwā mē bē shir. Rāng kā sīñi rūpi chū yēn mē bē shir. Rāng kā sīñi rūpi chū mē bē shir. Rāng kā sīñi rūpi mē bē shir. Wā tā sā mā rī.
So here we see the subject flower, for instance. We see the subject flower does not have does not have within itself, there is the there is not an existence. So there is no inherent self production. There is no inherent establishment from the own side, an item's own side, or from the side of other, in order to produce whatever that item may be or being may be. So the lack of production itself leads to the lack of true establishment. So the things are not truly established because they are not produced from themselves inherently or produced from other inherently. So we can see that the middle way consequence school negates even these views that the lower schools hold to be, assert to be true.
Jumel Jomé Jampen Kate, Jampen. Jampen get in Digi to Galo, Juka Yomajibata, Pico get in the Krashera in Hijibu, Swentang Sojuma, Jumel Jivaris, Majin Danta, Damalazo, Lubansin Shivas, Majin Danta, Damalazo, Majas and Pico Marbe, Pico Twen Hijibu, to Juya Marjiba, Jumebal Jivaris, Jumebal Jiva, Intan Deva to be Jivari. Never do yours. What the Lord is?
The Jipa.
Jiba.
The Sumba.
Sumba Nigal Jiva.
Nigal Jiva.
Jibuba
Kagadu. Okay. Two Chena.
Jane.
So it's easy then to negate production from both, because we've already negated the true establishment of production from self. We've already negated the true establishment of production from other. So because we've negated these two already, we can't say that things are truly established because of a little of both, because both have already been negated. So we can that particular negation of that assertion is to counteract the view of the Jain tradition. The Jain tradition feels that things are truly established and come into being from a little of itself and a little bit of other. And the two come together and somehow make it so it's truly established. So the Jain tradition tenet systems feel that this is the case, and they assert true establishment. And then when we see causeless, they are neither nor causeless, this is to negate the view of the nihilists. The nihilists believe that things are not caused, there are no causal factors for anything. That a peacock has beautiful feathers, but we never see those feathers painted. So they are just that way because they are that way, and there is no reason, there is no cause. Their belief is that there is no cause and effect, period. Things are just the way they are because they're the way they are, and one cannot see a painter painting a peacock is just colored. So they negate production altogether and state that things are causeless.
And
then they state, look at beans. There's no one who made the bean. Did you see a bean maker? Because there's no bean maker, there's no cause. So here, if we wanted to say the subject flower is not truly established, we can give the reason. The subject flower is not truly established because it is not produced from self, other, both, or causeless.
So So
we can see in the root text on wisdom, Nagarjuna's Sawasharap, Madhyamika Mulakarika is the Sanskrit name for that. In the Madhyamika Mulakarika, we can see the assertion that things are not truly established. And then it says self, other, two, or causeless. So it's shortened in Nagarjuna's text. It says self, others, two, causeless. So the same thing is meant as here.
And
then also we can find in the Umajupa, the Maitreya's Umajupa, Chandrakirti's entrance to the middle way, the Madhyamika Avatara, we can find the statement that things are, there is no production that leads to true establishment from self, other, both, and there is no causeless production either. So we find in the Madhyamika Avatara, Chandrakirti's entrance to the middle way, this assertion as well. So number 50, I'm going to read and then we'll explain it at a later time. Moreover, when all phenomena are examined as to whether they are one or many, they are not seen to exist by way of their own entity, and thus are ascertained as not inherently existent.
What the Mola Juba Chitrik Tensilers, Mopana, Nasu Demba Marubares, Demba Madu, the Demba to be cheat and Demba to Tomakano to Madubes, what is the words? Chitan you ever can go Yana Chi in Gore, Yana Tadi in Gore, Chitan Tadi Kaya Miami, Shizaji Yomaro, Chuji Yomaro, Chuina Yana Chi Micha, Yana Chitan Tomakano Micha Gurmadu, Chitan Tomakano Miami Chuji Yomaro. Mare. Demba Druba Yomare, Kete Demba Druba Yoba Ina, Demba Drubi Chitan, Demba Drubi Tomakano to Yoguba Le, Demba Drubi Chitan Tomakano to Madubi Shir, Demba Madus, what did that? Mola Juba Chitu Mare. What the town the Sumba to.
So here, this is the third correct sign where it says, moreover, when all phenomena are examined as to whether they are one or many, they are not seen to exist by way of their own entity, and thus are ascertained as not inherently existent. So here, this is the actual nature that we previously referred to the nature of the phenomena. So it says when all phenomena are examined here meaning for the nature of them, as they are one, as to whether they are one or many, they are not seen to exist by way of their own entity. So when one examines phenomena to see whether it is it is one or other, many here is tade, they've translated as many. I've always seen it translated as two or other. So if they are one or many, they are not seen to exist by way of their own entity, and thus are ascertained as not inherently existent. So the nature of phenomenon is that they do not exist by way of their own entity. They do not exist from their own side exclusively, and because of this, they are not inherently existent. So here, the third reason is given because the nature of phenomenon is such that when one investigates them, one will not find any true establishment because they do not exist from their own side exclusively.
Tapan aise ngarwa ngadema marubares ngade dema maruba inte ngade pai aggregate pombutan dema dubi chidu maru pombutan dema dubi thadi garudu maru bees what go marbe I am, you are, he is. I am so good, not truly is this. And Demba Matubaris. And Pi aggregate, Pombo Nata, Demba to be cheated to Macaro to Madubes, so what is that? The law.
So when we look at the subject, for instance, of the eye, when we look at the five aggregates themselves, the Yanjar Surana, Jason. Kangin Sen de Temambo Las and then Jason.
Nasan and Digro, Nachu, Nemarude, Nai Pombutan, Demba to be cheated to Macaro to Madubes, Nai Pombutan and Digre.
So the subject I is not truly established. It is not truly established because it comes into being through a collection of aggregates, and it is not come into existence by way of one or other, meaning by way of its own entity or other entity, because the nature of the I itself is not truly established.
Then the use in a Chena Deva Marubares, Chena and a Chena Pombutan Deva to be cheated to Macaro to Madubes. Then Kamba Demba Marubares, Kamba the Ranga Dajet and Deva to be cheated to Macaro to Madubes, Kangal Yoris. So
we can say that you are not truly established because you are not, the nature of you is not exclusive from that of the five aggregates, but it is not the five aggregates, nor is it other than the five aggregates. So the nature of you is to be truly not truly established or not inherently existence. So we can apply this same formula to all phenomena. Any other type of phenomena is not truly established because it does not exist by way of its own entity. It is not brought into being by self or other, or one or many.
Chidon Tadi Gama Chuyo Marwa. Demadruba Yoma, Kate Demadruba Yona, Demadrubi Chidon, Tomacaron to Tugubale, and Demadrubi Chidon Tomacaron to Maduba Inza, Dema Madubares. Chidon Tomacaron Maduna, Merota, Chidon Tomacaron Mena Mebaro. Demadrubi Chidon Tomacaron to Mena, Demadruba Mebaro. Demba Mebaro. What is it, Marbe?
So here, if we state that there is nothing that is outside of this, there is nothing that is existent that is outside of the scope of one or other, or one or many. So this or that, or I or other than I. So there's nothing that exists that falls into a category other than those. And we can see that neither of those are truly established. Neither one is truly established because it does not come into existence by way of its own entity or by way of other entities. So it is not truly established because the nature of whether we're using I or other or phenomena in general, the nature of these things is that they are not inherently established.
That Omajin, Kijin Shivasu Omajin Gozo, Dada Jemingon, Yandaban, Jibatan, Domingo, Tays, Rajimet Zunishis, jidu dado de omajin kishin shiwa chu omajin sa juro wo de no lu duas da da jemi ngon de da yang da ban de jiba da de mi ngon da te shir rangime de zonye jins da in na jin karzo thanji deba madu bares deba du ji da toma karu madu be shir bana zonye jins so de ka ko do.
So we can the Shandarashita. Shiwa, okay. So the great master Shandarashita wrote the text called the Ornament to the Madhyamika, the Umachen, Ornament to Madhyamika. And this text, we can find a quote that all phenomena, whether they be this or that, self or other, one or two, lack true establishment because of their lack of establishment of self or other.
What delegate omi jong moblio, Tidon to Ming Woni the Tages, Loven Single Zombie, passing to Batuzulia, Tidon to Ming Woni the Tages on you, Demba to be Tidon to Makaro to Madubi Sher, Demba Madubari, Zunians.
And we can find in Baba Vega's text, sing example, lion, Zambo positive.
Single Zombo.
Baba Vega,
Baba Vega on the Marva. Oh,
Litinje.
Ledenje Jule, you are
Sing example, Baba Vega. Haribhadra. Haribhadra. Oh, sorry, it's not. It's not Baba Vega. It's Haribhadra. Senge Haribhadra. The Senge Zampo, the Becha, the Go Jagadu Tombani, then Goja, the Tonlam. The Senge Zampo, the Haribhadra. The Dadare, Haribhadra. So we can find in all texts on the Madhyamika the quotes such as these, not produced from self, other, or both, because they are not produced by way of their own entity or from other entity. We can find also in Haribhadra's texts.
So in
this text we see that there are 3 stanzas of reasons to assert the lack of true establishment or emptiness. So maybe
ngaju leza ngaju ngaji ro ngaju ngaji den ma zero no ngaju ngaji den doni duju reba da oma zawa so le ja ngobo na je raji ne tomba ni to toshi ba gashi jone ma jube de shin den ma la trobi trota zang shi to gombi den do rot shis dan de go da da so ma du shemes da so ma du so yo ma res Atisha ge da soma do mashe da soma do mashe za da mambo yo maribasna yo arese dene chode inchi chajilu da doni dunju reba dans doni dunju ba oma zawashira rinchen tenwa ane shemna da oma resu drola so marbe doni dunju reba da oma zawa sole jang ngob na je ra yin tomba ni do joshi ba gashi jun mo be shiris 오만 주반 시비 땅다 자와 셔는 시비 땅다 강가 시바이나 용배 뭐 차는 거랬다. what the means 누두지 송자요서 what the things.
So here it says the reasoning of the 70 stanzas on emptiness, the treatise on the middle way, and so forth explain that the nature of all things is established as emptiness. Since there are a great many passages, I have not cited them here, but have explained just their conclusions for the purpose of meditation or for the purpose of familiarization. So here, the statement is that in the Madhyamika, there are a great number of passages where we can find examples of why emptiness is established. In the 70 stanzas on emptiness by Nagarjuna, the treatise on the middle way by Nagarjuna, and also the many other texts. But this is just a condensed format which condenses the meaning very concisely. And there are a great many texts which are more expansive and contain much more information. This is just a summary of what can be found in the larger texts.
어들다 따가다 소마도 소메스 시베이나 오마자와 셰로다 아니 오만 주반 시베다 뭐 무유하르스 대시베이나 보샤 뭐 보차노도스 아니 뇨뇨주마도 시메스 돈이 고아도 드디시야요스.
So it's a very condensed understanding of emptiness, because if we look at the Chandrakirti's Madhyamika Avatara, the entrance to the middle way, and we look at the treatise on the middle way by Nagarjuna and the other texts, there are a great many examples which are given, but we would need to read volumes of texts, and Rinpoche said this thick. We would need to read volumes of texts, whereas this is a very small abbreviated version that means exactly the same thing, but there isn't as much explanation given. So in the future, we'll also go over these things, and you'll understand them greater. In the future, you will understand more and more of this.